Hello friends, let me ask you something. How many nights have you spent replaying the same conversation hoping for a different ending? How many times have you told yourself you're done, only to get pulled right back in? Emotional detachment isn't about not caring, it's about finally choosing you. Because at some point, you have to stop breaking your own heart to keep someone else in your life. And when that moment comes, everything changes. You know, when it comes to emotionally detaching from someone, most people don't even know where to begin. They say things like, I know I need to let go, or I can't keep doing this to myself, but they keep checking the phone, they keep replaying conversations, and they keep holding on to hope where there's no real reason. That's where rules come in. Not feelings, not guesswork. Not waiting for time to heal everything. Rules. You need structure if you're ever going to climb out of that emotional pit and get your strength back. See, life doesn't change because we want it to. It changes because we act differently. And rules give us the framework to act differently, even when our emotions are screaming at us to do the opposite. That's the power of structure. Without it, the mind wanders. It fantasizes. It pulls you right back into the very thing you're trying to walk away from. Think about this. Have you ever told yourself, I'm done, only to find yourself 2 days later scrolling through old pictures, looking at their stories, reading old messages, and suddenly you're right back in it emotionally? Why? Because you didn't set rules, you made a decision based on a feeling, but you didn't back that decision with discipline. That's like saying you want to get in shape, but still keeping your pantry full of junk food. When you have rules, you give your emotions less room to control your behavior. Say a rule is something like, I don't check their social media, period. Not, I'll try to stop, not, maybe just once, no. A rule is a boundary you set to protect your progress. And when you break that rule, you're not just slipping up. You're choosing to stay emotionally entangled with someone who's no longer adding value to your life. Now, I'm not saying rules are easy. I'm saying they're necessary. Because here's the truth. Emotional detachment is not about not caring anymore. It's about caring more about yourself. It's about saying, I deserve peace. I deserve clarity. I deserve to move forward. And that kind of mindset doesn't just show up one day, you build it. You build it through structure, through self-respect, and through small decisions that you repeat every day. And here's something else. When you have rules, you're not relying on willpower anymore. You're relying on a system, and a system is stronger than emotion. Willpower is like a battery, it drains. But structure, that's a generator, it sustains you. So if you say, I'm not answering texts after 9 p.m., or I'm not rereading old messages, that becomes your new standard. And if someone asks you why, you don't owe them a long explanation. You simply say, that's the rule I set for myself. And let me tell you, that kind of clarity, that kind of conviction, it's magnetic. People who are emotionally all over the place, they get pulled around by every feeling. But people who live by rules, they take control, they gain freedom, because freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. Freedom is not being controlled by what you feel. That's the difference. That's how you win back your power. So if you want to detach, don't wait for closure. Don't wait for the pain to stop before you start moving forward. Start now. Start by setting the rules that will carry you through the tough days. And when it's hard, and it will be hard, you don't question the rules, you just follow them. You trust that the system you created will do what your emotions can't, protect you. Because if you don't live by your own rules, you'll end up living by someone else's emotions. That's the line that changes everything. Now here's something most people don't realize when they're trying to emotionally detach from someone. They're not just letting go of a person, they're letting go of a story. A story they've told themselves over and over again. This was supposed to work out. They were the one. We had something special. And the longer they hold on to that story, the harder it becomes to actually move forward. See, emotions aren't just reactions. They're habits. They're patterns we get into. And if you don't interrupt those patterns, they'll run your life like a broken record stuck on the same track. So if you want to emotionally detach, it's not just about distance from that person. It's about creating emotional space within yourself. And that starts by breaking the emotional loop you've been stuck in. You know the loop I'm talking about, where you think about them first thing in the morning, check your phone, scroll through their profile, wonder what they're doing, if they're thinking about you, if they miss you. That loop, it doesn't bring peace, it brings obsession. And obsession is not love, it's self-neglect. You're starving your future because you're feeding a fantasy. Now here's what I've learned. The way out of that loop is through awareness and discipline. You've got to catch yourself in the moment and say, this thought doesn't serve me. Not, I hope it goes away. Not, I'll feel better tomorrow. No, you call it out. You say, this is part of the old pattern. And the moment you identify it as a pattern, not truth, you begin to weaken its hold on you. Let me put it to you this way. If you had a wound on your arm, and every day you scratched at it, picked at it, reopened it, you wouldn't be surprised that it never healed. Yet that's exactly what most people do emotionally. They revisit the pain. They replay the memories. They talk about the past, like it still owns them. And then they wonder why the healing hasn't started. But healing only begins when you stop feeding what hurt you. When you stop giving your energy to someone who's no longer giving energy to you. And that's not bitterness, that's balance. That's you deciding, I choose my peace over this pain. I choose my growth over this attachment. Now some people say, but I can't help it, I still care. That's fine, you can care, but you don't have to cling. Caring is human, clinging is a choice. And every time you choose to cling to what's already left your life, you deny yourself the gift of what's waiting for you. You've got to give yourself permission to stop romanticizing the past. It's easy to look back and only remember the good times, the laughs, the moments when it felt like it all made sense. But be honest with yourself, was that the full picture? Or are you editing the past to justify holding on to it? Because if you're going to detach, you've got to see reality clearly. No filters, no fantasies, just the truth. And the truth is, if someone valued you the way you deserved, you wouldn't be here trying to figure out how to let go. So the emotional loop, break it, interrupt it, replace it. Every time the thoughts come in, shift your focus. Get busy with something productive. Fill your day with forward motion. Because healing doesn't happen in a vacuum. You heal by replacing old habits with new commitments. You heal by choosing your future over your feelings. And yes, some days it'll feel like you're moving backwards. That's okay, healing is not a straight line. But the key is this. You keep showing up for yourself even when it hurts, even when it's hard. Because the goal isn't to stop feeling. The goal is to stop letting those feelings run your life. And when you take your power back from those emotional loops, that's when real freedom begins. One of the most important things to understand when you're trying to emotionally detach from someone is this. Healing doesn't start with the other person changing. It starts when you decide that your peace is more valuable than your attachment. A lot of people think detachment means you're cold, that you've stopped caring, that you're shutting off. That's not what it means at all. Emotional detachment is not a rejection of love. It's a commitment to self-respect. Let me tell you something simple but powerful. Peace is a decision. And it's a decision you have to make even when your heart wants to chase after something familiar. Most people stay stuck because they're waiting for the other person to change, to reach out, to say something that justifies all the pain. But the longer you wait for someone else to give you closure, the more you rob yourself of the power to create it. You don't need their words. You don't need their apology. What you need is a shift in your own perspective. You need to stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, why am I still allowing this to define me? That shift right there, that's where detachment begins. Not from them, but from the version of yourself that kept accepting less than you deserve. And let me be clear, detachment isn't something that happens overnight. It's a decision you make daily. It's in the moment you stop replaying old conversations in your mind. It's in the moment you stop checking if they've watched your story. It's in the moment you stop assigning meaning to silence. Because sometimes silence isn't deep. It's just someone showing you exactly how much effort they're not willing to give. And your job isn't to decode that. Your job is to recognize that you've got more important things to do with your energy. Energy is a currency. You only have so much of it in a day. If you spend it all thinking about someone who's already moved on, what's left for your goals, your growth, your peace? You've got to protect your energy like your future depends on it. Because it does. See, emotional detachment isn't about feeling nothing. It's about not letting those feelings dictate your direction. You can still feel sadness, love, disappointment, but you don't let those feelings make decisions for you. You don't let them call the shots. You don't let them keep you tied to a situation that's clearly not healthy, because when you live by emotions alone, you end up driving in circles. But when you choose principle over impulse, you start moving forward. Slowly maybe, but forward. Some people say, but it's hard, it hurts. Of course it does. Growth always costs something. But what hurts more? Letting go, or staying stuck, in a place where you keep proving to yourself that you're not enough. When you really think about it, the choice becomes clear. The pain of discipline is far lighter than the pain of regret. You have to start detaching from the idea that someone else is responsible for your emotional well-being. That's on you now. You can blame, you can wish, you can hope, or you can take ownership. And ownership is where all the strength is, key. Because the moment you take responsibility, you also take control. You start showing yourself what real love looks like. It looks like boundaries. It looks like silence when there's nothing left to say. It looks like walking away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. Detachment is not a loss, it's a realignment. It's you returning to yourself, reclaiming your time, reclaiming your thoughts, reclaiming your peace. Because when you finally realize you've been the one keeping the connection alive, through thought, through memory, through longing, you also realize you're the one who can shut it off. And when that moment comes, you don't hesitate. You choose one of the hardest parts of emotionally detaching from someone is facing the silence. It's what people avoid the most. They jump into distractions, chase new relationships, fill every moment with noise, just to avoid being alone with their own thoughts. But let me tell you something most people never understand. Healing doesn't happen in the noise. It happens in the stillness. It happens in the quiet moments when you finally stop running and start listening to yourself. Because the truth is, you can't detach from someone if you don't first reconnect with yourself. That's the missing piece. Most people try to move on without doing the inner work. They think detachment is about deleting numbers, blocking accounts, moving cities. But emotional detachment isn't about escape. It's about alignment. It's about getting back in tune with who you are, what you need, and what you will no longer accept. And to do that, you need space. Not just physical space, emotional space. Space to breathe, space to reflect, space to remember who you were before you tied your identity to someone else. Because a relationship, especially one that ended painfully, can cloud your vision. It can make you forget your worth. It can make you question your value. That's why detachment isn't just about letting go of them. It's about rediscovering you. And that takes time. It takes patience. You've got to sit with the discomfort. You've got to stop reaching for the quick fix. Because every time you distract yourself instead of facing what's hurting, you delay your healing. And healing isn't passive. It's intentional. It's waking up every day and choosing to face the ache instead of feeding it. It's choosing solitude, not loneliness. There's a difference. Solitude says, I'm enough even on my own. Loneliness says, I'm not okay unless someone's here to fill the space. You've got to learn to sit in that space and not flinch. That's where strength is built. You've got to stop running from the silence and start using it. Because in that silence, something powerful happens. Clarity shows up. Clarity about the relationship, clarity about your patterns, clarity about the fact that maybe, just maybe, you were giving more than you were receiving, and calling it love. When you create emotional space, you give yourself the chance to think clearly again. You stop reacting. You stop trying to fix what can't be fixed. You start asking better questions, not why didn't they choose me, but why was I trying so hard to be chosen, not what did I do wrong, but why did I stay when I knew I wasn't being valued? Those questions only come when you stop filling your time with things that keep you numb. And let me tell you, the moment you stop numbing, the moment you stop running, that's when the real growth starts. That's when your inner voice gets louder than the noise of the past. And that voice, it's been there all along. It's the part of you that knows your value, the part of you that whispers, you don't need to chase love. You are love. But you've got to clear space to hear it. So yes, emotional detachment means separation, but more importantly, it means reconnection. With your peace, with your standards, with your future. You can't bring baggage into a new season and expect to move freely. You've got to drop what's been weighing you down. And the heaviest thing you'll ever carry is an identity built on someone else's inability to love you. Let it go. Because when you clear space, you don't just create room to heal, you create room to rise.